the president basically did nothing to influence. So the National Assembly had the latitude to do what they felt was good for the country.
All right, over to you, Senator Shehu Sani. The budget was presented to the Senate just yesterday and it was passed today. And in as much as there were still complaints that the Senate actually complained that it didn't get to, the document did not get to it on time, and there were still some inconsistencies here and there. Wouldn't you say that that was passed rather in such a hurry?
It wasn't passed in a hurry. What we did was to instruct the relevant committees to do a thorough job. After it was very clear to us and to Nigerians that there were some inconsistencies in the figures, and there are also issues raised with the content of the budget itself. So it took us time to work on it, and then before it was brought to the floor. And then the chairman Senate Committee on Appropriation has clearly raised some issues which were observations which were followed with a prayer, hoping that such issues should be taken care of. The first was that the budget was not brought in time, and that affected the processes of the budget within the National Assembly. And secondly, there were inconsistencies and lack of synergy and coordination between the Budget Office and the MDAs. And then we also observed that as a budget that was set towards stimulating the economy, we have seen an overwhelming figure on the side of the recurrent expenditure. We also raised issues to the fact that there is a need to generate more revenue from non-oil sources. So all these issues were clearly put into it to take corrections for the next year's budget. But we have done the best, and this is the best of all the documents that could have come as a budget in the last 16 years.
All right, Senator Sani. The Appropriation Committee of the Senate was saddled with the responsibility of fishing out the gray areas where these inconsistencies were. Would you say that committee was successful in carrying out this endeavor?
Well, the very fact that the president presented a budget of 6 trillion with 80 billion, and then it was reduced to 6 billion with 6 trillion with 60 billion. No, it's clear that they have done a very thorough job, and you have seen how also the heads of the MDAs came up and answered questions, and at most times also admitted that observations that were raised by the Senate and the relevant committees were actually facts. So they have done a very good job. But now the buck is on the table of Mr. President to accent on the budget so that it will be implemented in the best interest of Nigeria.
Okay, only yesterday.
In the content, but the value of it is in the implementation of it.
Yes, indeed. Okay, well, the issue of implementation is one that will always crop up. How has the synergy been between the executive and the legislative, and what's the guarantee that this budget of change, as it is tagged, is actually going to be implemented as the lawmakers want it to be?
Well, if you go through the reports of the Committee on Appropriation, there was a position made that at least quarterly the heads of the MDAs and the ministers should be reporting on the progress made on the budget, because this time around we are determined to see that the performance of the budget and the implementation of it is to the maximum. If you go through the records in the last 16 years, hardly you achieve 30 to 40% implementation. But this time around, we want to make sure that things are done very much differently, in the very sense that the focus of the government is to see that key areas of the economies are addressed on infrastructure, on diversification, especially on issues of solid minerals and agriculture and power. And I think this time around, things will be far better than it used to be.
Okay, let me ask you quickly before we come back to the studio. This budget has been trailed with so many controversies. Do you think the budget is now a perfect document as it's been passed?
This budget is certainly going to lead us to the promised land. And if it is not, at least it will cross the turbulent Red Sea of our economic crisis. In every sense of the word, we have spent so much time to work through it. And going by the fact that this is the first time a budget is not completely reliant on oil revenue, I think is something that is unprecedented in the history of Nigeria in the last 40 years. So this document, this bill certainly is going to be the roadmap for the economic revival of our country and also chart a new course for our future. Okay.
Thank you very much, distinguished Senator. We'll come back to you in a moment. Curtis, do you think, the NDAs, there were a lot of discrepancies, and the Senate actually said after going forward, the Appropriation Committee would have to work with the MDAs to put things together. Of course, some change might arise from this, but how differently can things be done so that such issues do not arise subsequently?
Well, I think the process of budgeting in this country has been fraught with some serious problems. And I think what happened this time was that some people just took what they had before, doctors, the documents, just struck out some figures and presented the same thing. But we are happy, and at least it's a good development, that we have a National Assembly, like the distinguished senator said, for the first time, that they want to critically look at documents that are presented before them. And I think given what has happened, going forward, the heads of the MDGs will be more careful in what they present. I felt very, very bad when the National Assembly was talking about budget being padded, inconsistencies, the figures don't add and all that. It was very disgraceful, that a country like Nigeria, where you have core competent individuals who could do this, we had that as a problem. So going forward, I think the lessons have been learned, that before you take anything to the National Assembly, now that they are paying attention to the facts and figures, people will be more careful.
Okay, the senator didn't quite tell us if the document is perfect, but he said it would take us to the promised land.
Well, I don't think any budget is perfect, because you have some you have factors that could make the budget perfect, but I don't think there's any budget that is going to be perfect in the world. But like he said, I also share his optimism that the budget probably will take us to a level where we think we've moved, fundamentally departed from where we used to be and moving towards where we want to go.
All right, thank you very much. Well, we take a moment, and when we return, the discussion on the just passed 2016 budget continues. Stay with us.